Hello and welcome to Inside Athletics, a show all about high school sports in Robeson and surrounding counties, produced here at WNCP-TV. I'm your host, Jonathan Vim from the Robesonian, and joining me today to talk spring sports are Donell Coley, also from the Robesonian, and Brandon Tester from the Laurinburg Exchange. So guys, welcome back.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so while there's been much talk around the region about what's going on the diamond, and perhaps the biggest storyline that has been the rainy forecast that have adjusted schedules much like we've seen this week. Rain on Tuesday has shifted this week's schedule, with the majority of the games being played on Wednesday and Thursday. So it's not really conducive to spring sport weather, but we're getting by somehow. So this week does bring some big matchups across the Sandhills Athletic Conference, going back-to-back nights, including Lumberton and Richmond in softball action. Both teams are atop the conference standings heading into the matchup, with the Lady Raiders undefeated at the moment. So Brandon, do you think the Lady Pirates have enough to creep closer to Richmond?
Yeah, I do think so. They certainly have the lineup to be able to do that, and we've seen at some points this season that they definitely have the pitching to be able to do that. The question is, can they back up Morgan Britt enough with their bats driving some runs, because that hasn't always been the case. But I do think they have the power to. Richmond obviously is a very talented team, so it's not going to be easy, and Lumberton can't shoot itself in the foot by not backing up the pitching.
Last year, it wasn't quite the matchup that everybody was expecting with that. We talked about how 2 years ago Lumberton split the season series with Richmond, then went to the conference tournament and beat Richmond in Rockingham. So they're trying to bring back to that whole form that they were 2 years ago, and it starts with Morgan Britt. How have you seen Lumberton really develop into the program they are right now?
Yeah, well, they've had a lot of continuity over the past few years, and that's kind of paying off this year. A lot of those girls really know what they're doing. They're able to make smart plays, able to pick up on things that the younger players can't. And, that's tougher because, there are a couple of younger teams in the conference, and that kind of helps out a little bit because those teams are prone to making mistakes, especially on defense. But like I said, the experience has really paid off for the Lady Pirates.
Donell, with a pitcher like Morgan Britt, hitting like with Madison Kennedy, even Caitlin Colbreth, who came in from Red Springs and really provided a big lift. How does that really help out a team like Lumberton right now? Seem like they can't do anything wrong, except when the nights where the bats do go quiet.
Yeah, it pretty much basically gives them a leg up on their opponent. It gives them momentum. It takes a lot of the pressure off of the offense. So when you have somebody like Morgan Britt going out there, getting no hitters, I forget how many, 3 or 4 that she has already in the season, just makes all the difference that you need for a team like that.
Yeah, so Brandon, Lumberton baseball is taking on another top-tier team in the Sandhills Athletic Conference. After last week, they took Pinecrest to the limit with 2 come-from-behind losses. So now they're going to take on a team in Richmond that's 7-1. What do you see the Pirates doing in that series?
Well, the Pirates haven't been terribly consistent this year, and they really need to start doing that. We're getting to that point in this season. All conference wins matter, but this is a time when you really got to start buckling down and figuring out, where you want to be when the season ends. Are you really going to be a postseason contender? They really need to pick it up now because that's a big series for them.
So it seems to be the same problem they had last year. They have the pitching. Obviously, they took Pinecrest. They led through 3 innings in Southern Pines on Friday, and then the week before, or the game before on Tuesday, it was 1-0 heading into the top of the 7th. Lumberton was able to hold Pinecrest, but they just weren't able to get the timely hits or come away with the crucial outs when they needed to. It seems like that's the problem they had last year with no bats, and the errors seem to mount up.
And, some of that has to do with just IQ. A lot of those guys, they just, you talk with coaches around there, they've had to develop that IQ because sometimes they just make, silly mistakes out on the field. And that really hurts them in all aspects of the game. I saw it, last year in the games I covered for them. It was, there's a lot of base running stuff, a lot of just not picking up on where the baseball's going in the field, and they need to clean that up pretty quick.
Yeah, so now on to a team that you're very familiar with in Scotland. The baseball team is right in the fringe of the leaders in the conference standings at 5-3 and has a chance to earn wins against Pinecrest to try and bolster their position in the league. So how do you see this series unfolding, Brandon?
Well, it's because Scotland's coming off against a series against 71st. And 71st kind of at the bottom of the conference right now, and a lot of the pitching you see from them, a lot of the hitters you face, they just aren't up to the caliber of the rest of the conference, and it'll kind of take a while, maybe a few innings or so to kind of get back up to speed. But Pinecrest is a tough opponent, and that's kind of a crucial win that Scotland needs. at this point in the season. And I think they have the tools to compete with them, but they've got to limit the mistakes that they've been making early on.
Yes, so there's still some room to improve, but what have been the secrets to their success right now? They've won 4 games in a row.
Well, it's kind of been sloppy in some ways, even though they're winning. They still continue to make a lot of errors in the field that kind of hurt them, and they end up putting a lot of runners on base, and they don't really have a strong enough pitching rotation to where you can just give runners bases and expect your guy to get out of it all the time. But they're still swinging the bat well. Some of those guys are, and they're developing. You got a couple of younger guys who are kind of stepping into their element now, and that's really helping out in terms of their approach at the plate. But yeah, they're still catching on. They still have a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, some of those guys have really been key for this program so far.
Well, they got a couple of seniors like Matt Sellers, Austin Norton. Austin's a guy kind of a power swinger, can get some deep hits, some home runs in there. Matt Sellers is an outfielder, good vocal leader for them, kind of keeps them in line. And then they got younger guys too. They got Parker Bird, a freshman who's already committed to East Carolina, which is impressive for someone that young. And even he's kind of struggled a little bit, especially with fielding, a couple of errors. But you can tell he's developing. He's kind of getting a feel for high school baseball, which is good for them. And it never hurts to know that you have some younger guys coming through the system getting that early varsity experience.
Coming into the season, Scotland softball really was a team that you didn't know what to expect from them. They had a lot of young talent. There's still some pieces to be there. They've won 7 in a row now after splitting the series back, it seems like a century ago, with Purnell Sweat earlier in the year. What's been going on with that program?
Well, they've really come together as a team. They got Cadence and Kinsley Shepherd transferring in from Scotland Christian Academy this year, and they're 2 very strong players, and they've been the primary pitchers, and they've also driven in some runs for the Lady Scots, and that's really helped them out a lot. They're not tremendously experienced. They only have 1 senior on the team, but a lot of these girls have been playing softball for a while anyway, whether with travel teams or with the school, and it's really helped them out. And they've just been able to get clutch hits when they need them. And the funny thing is, a lot of the times they're leaving pitches right down the middle, and it kind of frustrates their coaches, because it'd be an 0-2 count and they just watch something go down the middle, which kind of tells you that they have more opportunities to do more damage, which for them is good because they've already done a fair amount this season.
Yeah. So now moving eastbound down US 74, both Purnell Sweat programs are currently in the bottom half of the league standings here halfway through the season. Is it a fair assessment to say that both teams are underachieving with their talent, Donell?
I've seen both about, I guess, 1 time now, 1 or 2 times. So I wouldn't, and me being a new guy here, I wouldn't know if they're underachieving or not. But what I see out there is the times that they are not winning is they're giving up runs in clutch moments. So it's all about execution, really, for them. So I think they do have a lot of talent, do have a lot of players that are skilled and can go out there and get a lot of wins in that Sandhills Conference, but it is all about execution at this point.
Yeah, so does it seem like baseball's turning the corner after a convincing win over Jack Britt and then topping Greenhope, who came in 5th in the state on Saturday? So that was back-to-back games, back-to-back nights they had earned impressive wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I know I just watched them last week, and they beat Jack Britt at home, and then they turned around the next day and beat one of the top teams in the entire state. So absolutely, they're turning it around.
Yeah, what does that say about their depth? I mean, obviously we knew that they came in, had a lot of youth, a lot of juniors that were playing, juniors and sophomores that were on the JV team last year. Now seem like they're finally clicking.
Yeah, sure. It's early. Like we said, the rain has been delaying everything, postponed everything, so they really haven't had a lot of time to gel. So these guys aren't experienced, and now they look like they're starting to get their legs and starting to get used to the varsity experience. So, good things ahead for those Rams.
Yeah, so on the softball diamond, Brandon, you covered Purnell Sweat softball a lot last year. You've seen them once already this year when they played Scotland. What can you make of where they're at right now?
They're still developing a little bit. I think they lost a few pieces from last year's team, a few big hitters in their lineup, and I think they're just trying to fill those roles right now. You already got a couple of key pieces back, Jay Deese being one of them. But, it's just been kind of inconsistent. There's still, a lot of girls are still learning the game out there. You can kind of tell the way they make some mistakes, and, they just got to get it together a little bit. But it's not really the worst case scenario. I mean, they're growing, they're getting better. They have solid coaching out there.
Yeah, so Donell, you saw them take Jack Britt to the bottom of the 7th and were essentially 1 out away from getting that win. What impression did you get from the team in that game? Obviously, it was a big learning moment for them.
Yeah, they were right there. They had Jack Britt on the ropes, defending champs, state champs. They had him on the ropes, and it was just a matter of getting those outs. They had their ace. They had Deese in the circle, and she was going good until that last inning. She struggled there to get outs. She was battling actually through the whole game, and it looked on both sides that she hit a home run on the offensive end, but just that last inning, they really couldn't close it out.
Yeah, it was identical to what happened with Lumberton 2 weeks prior when Lumberton went to Jack Britt. They're thinking to themselves, okay, 3-1 in the bottom of the 7th. We're just 3 outs away from defeating the reigning state champions, and then Jack Britt was able to pull the rabbit out of their hat, and they're really showing that they're cream of the crop in the conference as well. So it's weird. It's going to be kind of crazy finished right now. We'll see what happens this week as to where the conference softball standings will end up. There's a lot to be decided, but we'll move elsewhere in the region. In the Three Rivers Conference, the usual suspects are dominating, which means Whiteville is on top of the conference in both standings. So despite losing the first regular season game since 2014, this Whiteville baseball team still leads the field by half a game. So, Donell, who do you feel like are some contenders in the Three Rivers Conference that can really challenge Whiteville? Obviously, Red Springs played with them for 2.5 innings, and then Whiteville was only defeated by West Columbus by a 1-0 score earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, West Columbus clearly they're the ones that got to them and ended that great streak that they had in the conference. So you got to put them first. In Robeson County, I would say Red Springs. They've only lost 2 overall this year, so I think they're 8-2. Had a few chances to watch them, and they, once they have Darren on the mound, Darren Bowen, UNCP signee, they are as legit as it gets in that conference. So I would say them and Fairmont. Fairmont's already beat Red Springs, so you can't leave them out.
Yeah, so those two teams seem to be in the top half of the league, the top half of the county in as far as the 1A, 2A standings. And the Red Devils, like you said, have benefited from UNCP signee Darren Bowen when he's on the bump. And it seems like the same case for the last few years with Fairmont, where they bring in young talent. We're not sure what's going to happen, and they seem to click. And they just keep on winning. So Fairmont has 3 freshmen, Colby Thorndike, Stevie Smith, and Ham Hodges, that are leading the team at the plate and on the mound. What have you seen from those guys and the production from their youth?
Starting with Colby Thorndike, Coach's kid, obviously, he's going to have a big voice there. I'm always impressed with the way, as a freshman, he's, vocal, and, he's the most talkative guy when you're in the bullpen, when you're next to the bullpen. You hear him getting the guys up after, maybe they give up a few runs in the inning. He's getting them guys up again, and, he's like, we're not out of it, and things like that. Hodges, he's just a pure hitter. I think he still leads the team in hitting right now. And Stevie, I haven't seen a lot from him yet. I've only covered him like once or twice. So, but I know they have a lot of youthful talent there, so they're going to be in good shape for years to come.
Yeah, what does that do for what they have right now with the seniors, upperclassmen on that team that have played before that are now being challenged by these young guys?
Yeah, they. I know that first game I covered them, they had like a controversial ending there where they won. With Quentin Hunt flipping over, hurdling the catcher at home plate. I was speaking with the Coach Thorndike, afterwards, and he's like, yeah, our seniors are kind of competing. Like, they're trying to get it going. They've been letting the freshmen take the lead so far. So, once they get it going, it's sky's the limit for us. So we'll see.
And for Red Springs, they're struggling to find consistency, including in games when Bowen is even on the hill. It seems like at the plate they haven't been able to put things together. Brandon, what do you think can help this team, this veteran squad? They've got a lot of seniors, and you saw them last year. You knew what happened some days when they had Darren on the mound and some days when they didn't.
Yeah, well, there's really no excuse at this point. When you have a player of Darren's caliber on the mound, you got to back him up. I was talking about Morgan earlier. If your pitcher's on and you're just not swinging the bat, then it's just a wasted outing. So they really just got to get behind him. Again, it's a player like him doesn't come around too often. especially a guy who can kind of get himself out of some jams, get some crucial strikeouts. They just got to start swinging. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. So St. Paul's and South Robinson are among the laggers in the conference right now. What can you speak about their program and their struggles right now, Donell?
Well, South Robinson, they're gonna struggle pretty much for the rest of the season. I think they speaking with Coach Buller beforehand, he pretty much admitted that this is going to be a rebuilding year for them. St. Paul's, they do have talent there. I would say they compete in every single game they're in. Their record is not indicative of what they can do for the rest of the year, and they just give up those long one inning where they give up a lot of runs, and they're just so long. The innings just last on and on and on. They gave up 15 runs to Whiteville in one inning, and that was pretty much just the big blow that they had. They were in that game until the fifth inning, I think it was. So yeah, those two teams, they'll have to just try to keep it going, keep a positive attitude for the rest of the year and see what happens.
Yeah, that's what Coach Matt Hunt said to me on Friday when they beat East Columbus in 9 innings. It was one of those games where he said there was a bad inning, but there really wasn't a bad inning. They gave up 1 run in the top of the 7th, which really cost them the inning in regulation, and they had to go to extras. So it seems like they're starting to minimize the damage. That was a big win for them over East Columbus, just to stop the bleeding a little bit after that loss they had against Red Springs. So as far as Robertson County softball teams in the Three Rivers Conference, there isn't much to write home about, with all four programs posting a combined 8-28 record. St. Paul's and Red Springs each have 3 wins apiece, but with the slugfest looming, it's a far shot that any of those teams will contend with Purnell Sweat or Lumberton in the tournament. So guys, the Robertson County Slugfest will be hosted at Purnell Sweat April 20th, 22nd, and 23rd. Donnell, what do you see from that tournament? Who do you feel like can really challenge?
Well, softball side, we know that's pretty much going to be the 2 teams, Purnell Sweat, the Sandhill teams, Purnell Sweat, Lumberton. We're pretty much expecting them just to, advance through. Baseball, that's going to be a really competitive one that we're really interested in seeing who comes out on top of that. Right now, I would have to say the favorites are going to be, Red Springs, if not Purnell Sweat. But I think Red Springs overall has, more talented right there. So
yeah. Brandon, you know how these tournaments go. He mentioned Red Springs, and like we were talking about, if they have Darren Bowen on the mound, they seem like they can beat anybody. But what is it really about those tournaments where teams have to really challenge their bullpen, challenge their other starters?
Yeah, especially if you have your ace out there, you're only going to get him out there once if he's throwing a lot of pitches. So you got to take advantage of when he's out there and drive in the runs, like I said, because once you get to your bullpen, like you mentioned, it comes down to the nitty-gritty. Can you get the job done? And they're kind of inconsistent at getting that job done sometimes. So.
Yeah, and I think Purnell Sweat, based on this weekend, if they can really build some more confidence going up against 71st, you never know. They could easily win. It will be 4 straight games if they beat 71st back-to-back times. So we'll see what happens with them. I would say right now they're the favorite, but there's a lot to happen in the next 2 weeks. Depends on how much rain could happen as well. So as the time comes, we will have more stuff to look forward to the tournament and see which teams are stacking up for title runs. So once again, we'd like to thank the crew here at WNCP TV for their work behind the scenes on the show. For Brandon Tester and Donell Coley, I'm Jonathan Bim. Thanks for Inside Athletics.